Welcome to 24/7 English. I'm Professor Connor. Today, let us talk about speaking practice. How are you going to practice speaking using the videos I have uploaded so far, as well as the future videos I plan to upload? Also, practice from your real-life situations, how you interact with people, how you talk to yourself. All these points, let me tell you one by one. The first thing to remember is the saying, practice makes perfect. This is a very common saying. Everybody tells you that whatever you practice, be it English speaking or anything else, you become better at it. So, the only thing you need to concentrate on at present is following all that I am telling you and practicing consistently. For instance, those of you who are at a very basic level of English should have a lot of exposure to the language, and these videos will provide that. In every video, there is English audio, and even if you don't understand half of it or much of it, please watch them repeatedly. What happens when we listen to people who are using the language is that our ears absorb it. The language comes into our ears, and over time, we are able to process it. Let me give you an example. There was someone who didn't know a particular language, but in the place where they were staying, there were only programs in that language on television. When we were growing up, television was limited, so this local language was all that person could watch. After watching it for a month or two, the unfamiliar language became familiar. Eventually, after some more time, they could understand at least the gist, the summary of what was being said. They may not have understood everything, but the summary could be understood quite well. When we keep this point in mind, we don't get disappointed. Many of you who are beginners feel very disappointed, saying, "Why can't I speak perfect English on day one?" It's not possible. Think about it. Anything you do, like learning to ride a bicycle, takes time. Can you ride perfectly on the first day? You might fall several times until you find your balance. Similarly, with speaking practice, the more you use the language, the better you become. Yesterday, someone was asking, "There are so many videos on your channel. In what order should I watch them?" This is an important question. For practice, if you are interested in listening to become comfortable with English, watch any video. It doesn't really matter what order you choose. Suppose you are a beginner. I have labeled certain videos as beginner level, so start there. Don't jump to intermediate or advanced levels right away. I have often mentioned the LSRW approach: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. It should follow this order. Think about how you learned your mother tongue, or observe how small children learn from birth. A child who is unable to hear, who is deaf, does not learn the language. Listening is the first step in learning to speak. So, as adult learners, you need to listen as much as possible. You can listen to anything in English. I'm not saying you have to listen only to my videos, but since you are here and find them useful, I suggest watching them in whatever order you prefer to improve your listening. The more you listen, the better it becomes. Now, someone wanted to know about the British or American accent. English is now a global language with many varieties. We don't just talk about English anymore. We refer to Englishes. This variation isn't unique to English. Take your own mother tongue. Different regions speak it differently. For example, I live in Hyderabad, in the state of Telangana, where Telugu is spoken. In Andhra Pradesh, another state, Telugu is also spoken, but there are differences in grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary. These differences exist in every language. So, if you have a problem with any accent, please listen to that accent again and again. In the future, we do not know where you will have to use your English. You must be able to understand every variety of English. In fact, there are people who are learning different accents of English to enhance their ability to get a good job in any part of the world. But first, you need a basic foundation, and it is that foundation in English which I am helping you with. This channel is the result of, I don't know, maybe tens of thousands, or I don't know how many people, who have been writing to me, who have been speaking to me for the past 10 to 15 years after watching the earlier videos on various channels. I don't even know about all of them. For them, practicing speaking was important. You know, today we are talking about how to practice speaking. Practicing speaking doesn't come only by speaking. Unless you listen, you have nothing to speak. Therefore, listening is an activity where, instead of only concentrating on the meaning, you should start concentrating on the language itself. I have been speaking to you, and now there may be around 50 videos on this channel. In these 50 videos, maybe half an hour or 1 hour each, I must have spoken 30 hours of English. Are you only listening to the meaning, or are you listening to the language as well? I am using a formal, structured English here. I'm not using casual or spoken English. I'm trying to use formal English because that's what we do in a classroom. So, you have come to the classroom to learn the entire course. Which one do you want to learn? The choice is yours. That's what social media offers us. You know, we have a choice. Now, when you listen to any video or even the news for 10 minutes, immediately start practicing by trying to say whatever you have heard in your own words. Please don't try to use the exact words used in the video or news item. Instead, try to practice using your own voice mechanism, starting from your lungs to your vocal cords to your mouth, which has a tongue, a hard palate on top, a soft palate at the bottom, and teeth and lips. This is your voice mechanism, your speaking mechanism. Unless you use this machine, you are never going to learn to speak. If you keep listening but nothing comes out, then it's of no use. Whenever you listen to English, whatever English you listen to, please start using it for practice. That's one way of practicing. I have given you many conversation pieces. There are conversations for beginners, mid-level, and advanced levels. There are various points at which I showed you how prose or a poem can be converted into a conversation. Suppose you are walking on the road and you hear two people talking in their mother tongue. Immediately, can you practice in your mind by translating whatever they are saying into English? Of course, if you know the language they are speaking, it should be your mother tongue too. Translate and speak it in your mind. Then go home and speak it aloud, because even if you are practicing in your mind, which, as I've already told you, is a great way to practice, you should still vocalize it later. First, practice whatever you hear around you. Then, practice whatever you recollect. Can you remember the most exciting day of your life? Now, describe it to yourself saying, "Oh, it was a very exciting day. I'll tell you, when I was in school, we had gone to a beautiful place in Bihar called Rajar. We were returning at night when the car broke down. It was all forest area, and for a young school-going child, it was a great adventure." So now, I'm thinking about it. I'm older now, but I'm remembering an experience from when I was around 12 years old. I'm using English to reconstruct that experience. You can do the same. That's how practice is done. Let us generate these situations from our minds, from our own lives, and then talk about them. Many people love to talk about politics. We often discuss politics in a very passionate, heated way in our own language. But when it comes to English, we hesitate. We don't say anything. We have lots of opinions, but we don't express them. The reason is that we are scared to express ourselves. Now, you have to get rid of this fear. I mentioned this in the first of the speaking videos I made, where I told you that if you want to speak, you should not be frightened. You should get rid of your fear. So, what's the worst that could happen? They might say, "Your English is all wrong." No problem. You know, when I speak English, I might make mistakes. In one of the videos, where it's, "Who are you and what do you do?" the "in he teaches" didn't come through, and in she teaches as well. Now, what should I do? I didn't check it, so I apologize. If someone tells you, "Your English is terrible," just apologize, saying, "Sorry, I'm just learning English. Will you please allow me to practice with you, as your English is better than mine?" Some others might not say anything. They might laugh loudly when you speak, or they might try to hide their smile. Then you might feel insulted. Get out of that emotional state. Get out of the mindset that if someone makes fun of you or corrects you, you should stop learning English. Please remember, if someone laughs at you, that person is your best friend. If someone corrects you, and I say this as a teacher with more than 40 years of experience, that person is your well-wisher, helping you improve by guiding you. So, go on practicing as much as you can. Do not wait to practice until you are perfect. The more you practice, the more you'll understand your problems. This is called diagnosis. When you go to a doctor, they ask for an X-ray or a blood test. Looking at the reports, the doctor says, "Okay, here's the problem. Now take this medicine." That's a diagnostic test. Similarly, we need a diagnostic test too. I can't give you a diagnostic test before allowing you into this channel because there are thousands of you, and I am only one person. Therefore, the diagnostic test has to be applied by you through practice. Go on practicing and make lots of mistakes. There are 3 levels in which you need to practice. Level 1. Say whatever comes to your mind. You don't know what's right and what's wrong because you haven't learned enough English to distinguish yet. For such learners, I am creating videos on grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, spelling, which hasn't come yet, and punctuation, which will come later. All these videos, especially those on conversation, are for people who can't yet tell which mistakes they're making. Once you know the rules, and remember, the rules can't be learned by watching the noun video or the pronoun video just once. You need to review them often, just as you went to school and studied English for 10 years. From 1st grade to 10th grade, you learned English as a second language. And by 10th grade, if you studied in a good English medium school, you could use the language perfectly. But if you still struggle with English even after years of studying, then here are the videos for you. In your practice, don't overthink about what you need to improve. Just listen to the videos, learn the rules, and keep them in mind. That's the first level of practice. Speak whatever comes to mind. Speak to yourself or to others. and don't worry about making mistakes. The second point is that you now need to start analyzing your own language when you speak. For this, your smartphone is very useful. It has a recording device. So sit in a quiet room like I'm doing and start speaking. When you record your speech and listen back, compare it with which you have heard. You will slowly be able to find out what the problems with your English are. You say one sentence quickly, then stop for 30 seconds because you're thinking of the next sentence. Then again, you speak one sentence quickly and stop for another minute because you are framing 2 or 3 sentences. In quick succession, you then speak 2 or 3 sentences, but again, there is a gap. Here, you realize there is a gap between your ability to think in English and to speak in English. This is something I've already discussed in detail, so I won't repeat it. You can go back to that video on speaking spontaneously and fluently, which will show you how to learn by simply speaking whatever is on your mind. So, for the second step, look at what you're saying and see if you can find out where mistakes are happening. It's not necessary that you'll always find them. You know, when you write comments, I feel very happy, but I also worry because mistakes appear in the comments. I think I'll make a video about all the grammatical errors in the comments you've given. Please don't feel hurt if I correct you. If you correct me, I would never feel hurt. I would thank you, as it's the greatest thing anyone can do for you. So, whoever has written a comment, it doesn't really matter. It'll be a learning experience for all watching this video. You'll realize, okay, this is the mistake, and I'll try to explain where the mistake is. Then, go back to that video and watch it at least 5 times to understand why that mistake happened. You'll see that you made it because you didn't know a rule, and you'll learn that rule. In the second level, you must spot your mistakes. The final thing is to be able to correct your own mistakes. If others make mistakes, you should be able to correct those too, but don't do it if it might upset them. Correct it in your mind by saying, "This person made a mistake. I should avoid that mistake when I speak." This way, you're learning not only from people who are better than you and from videos without mistakes, but also from people who make mistakes, or from videos with some issues, like I mentioned, the errors in "he teaches" and "she teaches." For those who noticed that, I feel like congratulating you. That's a wonderful way of learning English. You can spot a mistake and correct it. So, proceed in your practice by first listening, then speaking. Speak fearlessly, constantly, and as much as you want. Now, with so many videos in the classroom, how are you going to listen to and use them for speaking? That's the next question, which I'm sure you all want to ask. If you're serious about learning good English, some people say, "I'm appearing for a competitive exam. Please teach me English in 10 minutes." That's not possible. There's no magic to learning a language. There's only hard work. So if you're willing to put in that hard work, spend at least an hour or 2 per day, fit it into your timetable, make it a part of your daily routine. If you can't manage an hour or 2 every day, set aside more time on weekends or holidays, if you're free. On other days, keep a shorter time but divide it between listening to the video and practicing speaking. Notice that I'm not continuously posting new videos. When I started with verbs, Many people said, "Madam, give us tenses." But did you practice the verbs? I'm giving you time to practice verbs before moving on to tenses. Without practice, if you see the video only once, you'll get confused when I refer to something from a previous video. Think of it like attending a course. If you don't attend every class and only show up occasionally, you'll miss out on content you'll need to catch up on your own. No teacher will repeat everything. However, YouTube gives you an advantage. You can revisit any video uploaded even 10 or 20 years ago. It's always available if you want to recall it. So the videos are all there. Now, how are you going to use them for your speaking practice? Suppose I have told you a story. Now, all of you who have watched that story, have you tried telling that story to yourself, recording it, and listening to your version? Then, you can check the video again to see how the story was told there and compare it with the language you used. I'm not only interested in your factual understanding. All of you understand English, and your factual knowledge is excellent. You might even have more ideas or know more stories than I do, but that doesn't matter. What we are learning here is the language itself. To practice language, you need content. You can't just string together words in English. If I taught you only vocabulary words without context, it wouldn't be effective. That's why I have given you sentences with each word. Because learning English by memorizing 500 single words alone doesn't make sense. Everywhere, English is being used, so you have a chance to observe it and listen to it. The videos with PowerPoint slides are also a great help, because if you can't understand what I'm saying, you can always check it on the screen. These are all things you need to do to practice. So, I will repeat. Practice makes perfect. How much time you're going to devote to your practice of English depends on you. Start that timetable today, take it up sincerely, and, for those of you who are already good at English, you might need only a week or 10 days to improve. Then, the videos will become reference points for you. Whenever you want to review something, you can go directly to that video. However, I recommend that you watch the videos multiple times, because unless you repeatedly see the same thing, you won't improve your language skills. We're talking about language, so language improvement only comes when you are familiar with its use and how it is used in different contexts. Please remember that and don't hesitate to practice. Practicing speaking is a very interesting and exciting journey. I want all of you to start it today. Thank you, and all the best.